Afternoon.
Well, hello. How's it going, Mr. Barber?
I am good. Just like every Thursday when I'm on the farm, I find myself in the yard or in the shop working on something and then looking at the clock and going, "Oh, I gotta go." So another day today, same thing.
Sneaks up on us. This is episode 20 of House Arrest. Can you believe it? We're on episode 20 already.
We're almost 6 months into our sentence already. Hey, like 6 more months.
I know. Yeah, I was just saying that to my daughter today.
You'll be coming to my house for shop beers before I get to your place. Unfortunately, Tamara's sentence is a little bit shorter than mine, but
yes, it is a little bit shorter than mine. How's everybody doing tonight? Welcome to House Arrest on this Thursday evening. Yeah, let us know where you're at. Hi, guys. Wildflower 19, Christy Berry, welcome back. Carla. Great. Well, I'm super excited about tonight's show, but before we get into that, Chris, how was your week on house arrest? You were down in Kansas.
I was, yeah. I went down with a farmer from Mortlach this week. We went down to Kansas. We picked up a forage harvester. He picked up the attachments for it, and we spent the week together trucking, and we delivered that this morning, I guess, and raced home, washed red off in the yard with the pressure washer. It's a beautiful day in Saskatchewan here, plus 16, sun shining. It was a good day. So now I got some fixing to do and get ready to go to Vauxhall, Alberta tomorrow, I believe, for a customer's tractor. So how was your week?
It was good, busy, but really, really good. Yeah. No meetings with my CSO this week, so that's good. But she's been pretty good. We've got a few things coming down the pipe. I'm hoping to possibly make a trip to the United States for work here in the next few weeks. So we'll see how that goes.
Nice.
My file has been transferred from Ontario to Alberta now. Yours is likely in Saskatchewan. So any changes now that we make going forward to our current conditions, mine will be heard here in Alberta, so that's a little bit more convenient, at least.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm living the life right now. Swift Current, Saskatchewan, our SPCA jail and bail fundraiser is on Saturday at the Swift Current Mall outside of Safeway, I believe, from 11 to 2. I'd like to mention people could come by. Zippy will be there. Zippy reoffended this week. He did make bail, but he reoffended. He's a criminal, and so he is now back in custody. And what happens when you breach your bail conditions? You know what happens even if you don't breach your bail conditions. I can't wait to see everybody on Saturday. I do have permission to go to the mall and as part of community service because it's working for the SPCA. So I'm excited to see everybody there. I hope we can get some people out and raise the funds to get us out of jail. Done that before.
That's awesome, Chris. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, good for you. I'm so happy that you're doing that fundraiser with the SPCA.
Yeah,
that fundraiser has been going on as long as I can remember. I remember the Swift Current jail and bail, or the SPCA jail and bail. So I see that Zippy did make his first bail, and then he was obviously rearrested on a breach. Did you manage to make your bail yet?
I did not. No, I'm excited to go in there and we'll see what we can do when we're in person there. So it's a good
for sure.
Community. SPCA is near and dear to my heart. Most of my animals around the yard here are all SPCA animals. So I'll be excited to see everybody. So I'm excited for tonight. This is an outspoken person, a conservative person from Canada who was a sitting MP, and Tamara's going to play, or Tash is going to play an entry or an opener for Michelle Ferreri. Can we do that?
Like a bit of an introduction. Yeah, you betcha.
It started behind the anchor desk. It graduated to stages that inspire. Then to the House of Commons as a member of Parliament and a shadow minister advising leaders, shaping messaging, and delivering for those who desperately wanted to be heard.
Canadians are suffering, and we were elected to bring their voice here.
The goal has always been the same: clarity, courage, and messages that challenge the status quo. Messages that inspire us to challenge what we think we know and to talk about the uncomfortable topics.
You heard that correctly. A child killer has free access to children in prison. In what universe is this okay?
To move the needle.
And why aren't we investing in local products here in Canada rather than relying on dictator oil?
This is about the welfare of the child, that there's nobody in here that doesn't want access to quality, affordable childcare. And the stress and the pages and pages and pages of notes I have from parents whose mental health is declining daily because they do not have access to childcare is a major, major concern.
To make life better. Today, my team and I are able to do that for brands and organizations of all sizes. You need to stand out. You need your message delivered to those who need it. How can you help them if they don't know who you are or what you do? Creative, fierce, and results-driven. That's always been the standard. Whether you need a keynote speaker who ignites motivation and passion, a panelist with fire and inside political experience, or you need help marketing your products and businesses, my team can help. You want to go to the next level, and you can. I'm Michelle Ferreri, and I'm here to help. Let's explore what's possible.
Wow. That's awesome. Well, everyone, really happy to be welcoming Michelle Ferreri to House Arrest tonight. Welcome, Michelle. Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, you guys are so kind.
Thank you.
You guys are awesome. I think this is like, it's so wild to watch this because it feels like it's like a parody. Like we're on house arrest. We got arrested by the Canadian government. We're doing a YouTube show about it. No, actually, that's actually what's happening. It's wild.
You got to find some humor in it, right? You can't not find a little bit of humor in what our experience has been over the last 4 years, both of us not being involved in legal systems up until Convoy. So, Michelle, you've always been an outspoken conservative. I've always watched your stuff in the House of Commons. You've held the government to account. You've been very vocal and very well articulate. Tell us, I want to just jump right into it. Like, tell us what your experience was being a member of Parliament during the Freedom Convoy. I am so eager to hear.
Oh, okay. I have a lot to say. Actually, I'm really surprised you didn't play my speech, the Emergencies Act speech I did. I thought that's what you guys were going to play, but okay. So here's, well, yeah, you can look that up. It's something. There's actually somebody on the internet. I can't remember who it was. They actually edited my speech to like clips of you guys and like the convoy and all of that. And it's actually,
wow.
It's really great, actually. Whoever
can find it.
Yeah, she's great. If you do Michelle Ferreri Emergencies Act, I think, but I ended up actually having a chat with her because I was like, you're so great. Like the work you've put into editing this and that. So I was elected in 2021 and really like, I don't want to say fell into politics, but it was never my intention to go into politics, right? Like, so I said two things I would never do. I would never get divorced and I would never run for politics. And check, I did both. Yay me. And so I got elected in 2021 and September 20th, 2021. And so it was just like one thing after another. So before I got elected, I feel sad because I can't see you guys now. Now I feel like I'm talking to myself. I feel like I'm just talking to myself. When COVID hit, I actually, leading into this interview tonight of you guys, David Redmond had commented on your Twitter saying Michelle was one of the first people to talk out about lockdowns. I went to find that interview with him and it's gone. I can't find it. And so I was very like, in the very beginning, I was like, what is going on? Like, I remember sitting in my hot tub trying to like connect with people because we used to do these videos in hot tubs and chat. It was called chat talk time or something. I can't remember what the hell I called it. And I was like, what are we doing? Like, what's happening? And I instantly got like hate. And I was like, okay, something's wrong. Like I knew very early on something was very wrong. And so for anybody who doesn't know who David Redmond is, you can look him up. He was one of the very first people to sort of say this. So I brought him on because I did interviews before I was in politics. I was in media, I was in journalism, and I was always like, what's the three sides to the story, right? There's always three sides to every story. And I was like, something is just so weird. Like the risk versus reward does not add up. That's how every decision I think should be made. What's the risk? What's the reward? Let's weigh it and then let's make decisions. And I was seeing my kids struggling. I was seeing my parents struggling in isolation. I was seeing people like vilified in the grocery store for not standing 6 feet apart. And I was seeing my family be vilified for choosing to not take the vaccine or to take the vaccine. And like this segregation of you and us versus them. And I was like, this is crazy. So that was kind of like the beginning of the end of me saying like, because I just always just say what I think, right? And so I just thought it was insane. Well, like nothing made any sense. Like I remember a 4-year-old saying, why do you have to take off your mask when you sit down at the restaurant table, but you have to put it on when you stand up? Like, does the virus know if you're sitting or standing? Yep. And I'm like, but
7-year-old knows these things,
Mhm.
right? And nothing made any sense. And there was no reasoning with people. And it just got worse and worse and worse and worse, right?
Yeah.
So, and then I was, if anybody really wants to delve into me, I was under mass scrutiny because during the campaign, I run in a bellwether riding, so which means whoever wins in Peterborough typically forms government. I was running against a minister, and so like everybody's like, okay, she won't win. Well, I did win, but and I unseated a minister, and I bucked the trend for the first time in 41 years. But I went into an old age home at the time, and one of the volunteers took a picture of me talking to the folks, and I didn't have a mask on.
Ooh.
And it was national headlines that I was, killing old people, and I was like this awful person. And I was like, what is going on? And then it kiboshed the campaign, and they went after Aaron O'Toole at the time. He was a leader. And it was just crazy. Like, it was actually insane. And I had tons of family members who couldn't get vaccinated or did. And I have somebody I want to talk about in a little bit, but I'm going to get to the convoy. So then I win the election. I get elected, and January 2022 hits, and it's so overwhelming when you first get elected, especially if you're if you don't have a background in politics. Like, it's just like, it's a crazy, crazy thing. And so this convoy starts to roll into town. And I just remember sitting in my chair. I still have the video. And I remember watching these overheads and people being like, you're standing up for me. And so I've always been drawn to voicing for the voiceless. Like, that's just who my personality is. And all of these people, myself included, really, who were vilified, who were ostracized, who were treated like garbage, finally felt like they had somebody who was fighting for them. And I was like, this is so cool. Like, because I'm a big believer in the people have the power, right? Mm-hmm. Like, even the Magna Carta, when you go back to all that, like listening to Pierre today on Joe Rogan talk about how the Magna Carta and Runnymede and all of that was created was the people. It was the people. Yes. And so, they'd had it. People had it. Like, these mandates, this traveling. My partner's mother died in the hospital during COVID, and she was in hospice. She was literally like hours away from death, and they took a COVID test. I'm like, what are you doing? like we lost our minds, right? So I was very passionate about this. So when the convoy came into town, there was like political tensions around it, and I was like, this is great. Like, and then they're like, hey, Michelle, you have to be neutral. Like, you have to kind of whatever. And neutrality is not my strong point. Like I like to hear everybody's opinion, but I was like, these people are upset. Like, and so anybody who watches my speech when the Emergencies Act was invoked, it's a pretty passionate speech. And honestly, it's probably one of the things I'm most proud about of what I accomplished at the time, because my big question to everybody was why? Why do you have this convoy? It wasn't the Emergencies Act. It was why. What happened to motivate and mobilize people from across the country to spend their own money, their own time, leave their families, leave their pets, and come across the country just to be heard? Why?
Exactly.
That's a lack of leadership. That's all that is. And so every morning, when it first started, the horns were crazy. Like, it was insane. It was crazy. Yeah. And I still have the videos. I should find them and give them to you guys. Like, I remember laying in my hotel room, like, am I in the Twilight Zone? Like, what is happening? Like, what is this? And then, so I would walk, and I would go into, like, I was walking. But I'll tell you, from an MP's perspective, like, on the other side, we didn't really engage with a lot of people. We were going back and forth. And then, like, these rumors would come, like, oh, there's bombs in the trucks. You're all going to get blown up. And there was a lot of MPs at that time who were still really scarred from the Harper shooting. And, like, they were really scared, and rightly so, like, of stuff that had happened on the Hill. And so then you're like, wow, I guess that I guess that's possible. And so like a million things were running through your mind. Like it was all over the news. It was this huge deal. Your parents are watching you. Like my parents are like, are you safe? What's happening there? Are these people crazy? You're like, not really. Like, there's people like walking on the street, and so it was a very, very bizarre situation. The cops were lovely. Like I will say, like, cause we had to come up into Parliament every time. The cops always stop. Hey, how you doing, Michelle? Covered a lot of protests in my 20-year career. Never seen anything like this. Like you can easily solve this. Nobody's talking to them. Like it was crazy, right? It was really, really crazy. And so fast forward, it just kind of keeps getting worse. Right? Like it just keeps dragging on. And I'm like, guys, like we got to end this. Like we got to wrap this up. And I remember I was walking to work.
We were thinking the same thing.
Yeah, right. So this is where I'm going with this. And I remember walking, and I remember turning to the guy because it was freezing. Like it was freezing. And I remember turning to this one trucker, and I'm like, do you not want to go home? And he goes, yeah, I do. But nobody will talk to us. And it was just so stupid to me. Like the whole thing was just so stupid. And then the beautiful thing about it, again, I can't find this video. I did a live Facebook video. I came out of Parliament and I was like, I need to show people what it's really like, because what was being portrayed on the news was not the frickin' same at all. Like there was people in the street giving food, and they were like, it was like almost like a Woodstock vibe, like peace, love, and harmony. Like it was nothing what was perceived. And so I remember I came out and I shot this live Facebook video, and I walked the streets. I couldn't have planned this if I tried. People think it's like a joke. There were Black people, Asian people, gay people, old people, young people. Every single person you could imagine is in this video that I did. And at the very end of the video, it was a live Facebook video. I run into these three guys, and they're on O'Connor Street, and they've had a few toddies. Okay. They've had a few, and they're having a good time. And the one's from Alberta, one's from Quebec, and one was from PEI, I think. And they started to get emotional. And on the video, they're like, I never would have met these people, and I never would have bonded with other people in the country had this not happened. And people think Albertans and Quebecers hate each other, and we have way more in common than I ever thought. And so there was like this uniting aspect that was also super beautiful that I saw. But the story I really want to tell you, and that I want everybody to tell, because I want to get into the Federal Court of Appeal because I'm so pissed about it. But
yes,
the story I really want to tell people is the day I knew that the government was really problematic. Like I came in kind of naive, thinking the government helped the people. Like that's what I thought they were supposed to do. And Justin Trudeau was like so crazy in doubling down on whether he, like when he picked something, it didn't matter if he was wrong. He just kept doubling down on it. And so after he invoked the Emergencies Act and the streets were cleared, I walked to work that morning on Wellington. It was about 6:57. I've shared the video on my Facebook, and the streets were completely clear. Completely clear. And he was having a press conference that day at 10 or 11 a.m. And I was like, oh, he's gonna revoke it. Like he's gonna pull it back. And I remember saying to my colleagues, conservative colleagues, I said, oh, this is great. He's having a press conference. He's gonna revoke the Emergencies Act. He's gonna say, we're all good. Like let's move forward.
Right.
And they looked at me and they went, Michelle, you have no idea who this man is. And I said, what are you talking about? They said, he will not revoke it. I said, there's no trucks on the street. They're all gone. They said, it doesn't matter. And I didn't believe them. And I'll never forget standing in the lobby, and I'm watching him. So I'm watching him on a screen, and he's probably like 50 feet from me in the lobby doing the press conference.
Right.
And the reporter says, are you going to revoke the Emergencies Act now that the trucks are all gone? And he goes, no. In fact, we might re-implement it.
Wow.
And that, Tamara and Chris, for me was like a holy shit moment. Like,
yeah, very telling.
What was the strategy behind it? Was it just the crushing of rights, or why did he do that? Do you have an idea?
So I think it's the exact same reason that Mark Carney has chosen on the last day in the 11th hour to appeal the federal court's ruling that the Emergencies Act was illegally invoked. It's the exact same principle. Double down.
Yep.
Double down and don't back down. And God forbid we look like we were wrong. It is an ego psychosis. And
well, I've said that from Chris and I have talked about this often. It's like every single decision that they were making, even when we were just on our way there, was the wrong one. They made nothing but bad choices. I mean, first of all, the prime minister comes out and calls a healthy portion of his population a fringe minority, and then he went off and hid. He was flown out of the area for his safety, but that was before he came into contact with somebody that, like, it was just every possible thing that they did during that time, in my opinion, was the absolute wrong decision. And like you said earlier, all we wanted was a conversation. People were going to the legislatures. There was rallies and protests happening all across the country, and they were still being ignored. Pardon me.
We took it as a huge win that we had actually worked a deal out with the city. Like some of us did, I guess. It was a huge deal that we worked a deal with the city in order to get some of those vehicles out of the residential areas, because I didn't plan on that. Tamara didn't plan on that. It happened. And when it happened, and there were so many people there, you just tried to work with law enforcement liaison officers to adapt in the situation. None of us, Tamara's not a protester. I'm not a protester, an activist. And it was a tricky narrative.
I think most true protesters, though, and activists are forced into that role. I heard this lovely girl on AM 640 the other morning with Brad Smith. She's a volleyball player in the States, and she was knocked unconscious by a transgender guy. And
right.
I didn't want to be an activist. I didn't want to do that, but I was forced into it to change the rules because our safety was at risk. And I think you guys were put into the same position. I think, it wasn't like you were like, this was your life goal. Gee, I want to go fight the government. The government forced your hand.
Yes.
Government, we know that, right?
Yeah. It's crazy.
The last time I saw you was at and where I met you actually was at the Conservative Convention in Calgary a few weeks ago. And thank you for letting me interview you, by the way. And I remember at that point, the Federal Court of Appeals decision had, I think, only come out 2 weeks prior to that. And we had a bit of a discussion about that. And I think we were both a little bit hopeful, with the ruling. And then, of course, we found out just recently, within the last couple of days, that the federal government is seeking leave to appeal that. So like you said, it's just like they dig their heels in and they double down. And what I find is that these people will never apologize unless they can use it as an opportunity to shame and demoralize Canadians for whatever reason.
It's a really hard thing to accept, because I think we as people expect people to do the right thing, especially people in positions of power. And it's, I joke, becoming an MP was like learning. I hope there's not any kids watching, so earmuffs. It's like learning there's no Santa.
Right.
It was sad. And I'm so angry. And I want this, if I could get one message out tonight to your viewers, I'm so angry because Mark Carney was handed on a silver platter an opportunity to heal the country and move forward. On a silver platter, he could have said, you know what? That was just, and he could have even laid the blame on Justin. And he could have said, you know what? That was then, this is now, that's the ruling. We respect it. And you know what? We need to move forward. This divided our country and we are better together. And that we don't need this anymore. That's the opportunity he had. And I really want to say a shout out right now. I'm going to try not to get emotional on this, but Bob Bolton, and I know, Chris, you messaged him, so thank you so much for that. Bob Bolton took the vaccine so he could go see his grandson. And I don't know how much time Bob has left, but the vaccine gave him ALS. And he tried treatments and he went to Kingston. And those are the real life consequences of the policies that government put in place.
Yes.
The VISP program, the Vaccine Injury Support Program, is a joke.
Don't even get me started.
An absolute joke. And people like Bob can't get it. Doctors have lost their licenses for saying the truth, so they don't say anything. And Mark Carney had an opportunity as a leader. You don't have to agree with everyone as a leader. You can still want to go get your 75th booster. Go get it, Mark. I don't care. Yeah. But your job as a leader is to heal this country. Like, people will never speak to family or friends again. There are people who are dead because of this vaccine. There are people who are forever injured. Their lives don't matter. Like, it's so sick. You know, the CN Tower right now is lighting up for long COVID. How about we light the CN Tower up for the people who died or who were injured or who lost their jobs?
Absolutely.
The vaccine. Like, it's insane what we've done to this country. And it's all a product of bad leadership. I can't stress this enough. That's why I wanted to tell you guys this story. And I really, it makes me so mad that both of you literally just elevated the voices of the voiceless, and you're punished. Well, people who are pedophiles or rapists or killing women in broad daylight are walking free. It's stupid.
17 pounds
of fentanyl to kill half the country.
I did a post on this yesterday. 17 pounds of fentanyl found in a transport truck going through my hometown of Swift Current. One of my employees just lost his granddaughter, buried his granddaughter to a fentanyl spike in another narcotic. She passed. And the Crown prosecutor this week stayed the charges against this guy caught with 17 pounds
of fentanyl.
I can't. And then you have a judge who says, you know what? Well, based on your race, I have to give you a plea bargain. Mm-hmm. What are we like? Why are you dividing? And like, do you know what that creates? That actually creates racism. For the
record. Absolutely does, for sure. And and in the meantime, Chris and I can't even go to the gym.
No.
Nobody. Right? Don't go to the gym. Right? Take a pill. Like, that's the world we live in.
Yeah, that's right. Like, exactly.
I can't. And I just, it's just, why? Like, why are you doing this? And, you know, somebody said this to me. They said, Michelle, it's master plan. It's all part. I actually think that you're giving them too much credit. Yeah. I actually think they start with some stupid decision and some stupid lie, and then that turns into another one, and then they double down on that one, and they're so far gone now. But I really thought, like, even I don't agree with Mark Carney's policies, whatever, fine. But I actually thought, if I was him, and I was like, okay, actually, this is such a clearing for him to be like, I don't want to be associated with this, and I don't want to be I'm going to blame this on Justin. He can wear this. Let's just leave it and move forward. But those are people around him too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Brian Peckford said it very well. The Honorable Brian Peckford said, when government is working in motion like that and there needs to be a correction, government will commonly back away from something, refocus, and move on a different direction. But this government in the last number of years has failed to do that. They double down and they continue on a path. And how do you fix that?
Exactly.
You know, I've had this conversation a lot. Chris, you and I have had this conversation. Samara, I think you and I touched on it, because the biggest thing that people say to me is, it's too far gone. It's effed. Like, we can't get it back. Like, forget it. It's over. And that's just not how I'm wired. You know, I just don't believe in giving up. And I think humanity has been here before. Humanity will be here again. And it's the hamster wheel, and they want to break your spirit. They want to break you down. And you guys are the glass. Like, you guys shattered the glass. You're the first line of defense, and you did the thing that, you know, everybody's like, yeah, no, I support that. Oh, I don't want to say that. I don't want to get in trouble. I don't want to sit beside them. And it's like, right. But you guys did the thing that moved the needle. You're paying the price, and you're the collateral damage, you know, like, oh, we have to make an example out of somebody. But I don't think as a people, we can give up. And I think it's like, we're not asking to go all one way. We're asking for everybody to have fairness. Yep. That's all.
Actual equality. Yeah, exactly. Well, and like you said, I mean, for me, one of the biggest disappointments out of all of this was the fact that, I mean, and I wasn't naive going into this. I mean, I followed politics for a while, and some of the corruption that I've perceived was happening, but it was the disappointment in finally seeing with my own eyes that every single institution that I was brought up to believe in this country that was there to protect me and my family and to protect my liberties and to give me a voice is all a lie. Not a single one of those agencies are designed to protect us people anymore. I believe at one time they were, or at least they were upheld, but I don't think they are anymore. And it is, I have a hard time going on social media lately because it's just like every single day, it seems like it's getting more ridiculous than the day before. Now we have the defense minister that says he wasn't briefed on the Iranian attack, but now 4 hours later, he was briefed by the Iranian. Like, I mean, when does this stop? When do we get actual people back? You said it best. Actually, we have a clip here. And I really want to, you said it best in the interview. If you can bring that up, Tasha, where I was interviewed at the convention. Leadership without empathy. And this is a huge problem. Tasha, can you bring that up for me if you don't mind?
Inside of me is, why were the people there in the first place? Why did an occupation happen? Why did you let that happen? And then when they got there, instead of coming out and negotiating and talking, he went and hid. And it is such a vilification of people whose lives were ruined. And I thought a lot about it, Tamara. Like I pulled over, I recorded a video. I was so angry and I've never posted it. But you know what I think it is more than anything? It's leadership without any empathy. It's leadership that can't fathom that their lives weren't impacted, so they're the problem. Instead of understanding that people lost their jobs, they got sick, they died, they couldn't go visit their mothers in the hospital, they couldn't go to work. And
they were planning their own suicides. That's something that we heard every single day.
I think that's what's missing. And it was kind of like a light bulb moment for me when I saw this. And it was such validation, right? The day that the federal...
Anyways, that statement just struck me, and I think that's a huge problem. And, I saw a tweet a while ago that somebody had posted about how, in during the convoy, just everyday regular Canadians like Chris and I and all of them, we're just normal people, went to Ottawa to just ask for a conversation, and we were treated like nothing. It is us. It is the people, the regular people that keep this country going. It certainly isn't the freaking liberal government, but to go there expecting that these people that are public servants and elected to refuse, especially after the 2021 protests where, Trudeau kept talking about it's the importance of dialogue. We need to maintain dialogue. We have to keep the conversations going. So
their favorite saying is nothing about us without us. Okay. Then how about you walk the walk, folks? Like the things they say and the things they do are like insanity. I want to read you this tweet because it's perfect for what you said about empathy. So I did this tweet. I'm sassy and spicy, and I wrote on X, as long as you don't need a house, gas, groceries, a job, healthcare, or safety, things aren't so bad. And this woman wrote back, we have all of those things and we're happy. So sorry you're not. That's her voice. That's my invitation. And that's the whole point. So I don't have those problems, so it doesn't exist. And that's the lack of empathy. That's the
entitlement, right?
Like there's I don't have that. So I want to take the vaccine, so you should have to take it. Whatever, my lens is your lens. Like they have an inability to understand that somebody's having it, and in the words of Justin Trudeau, experiencing it differently.
That's right. Exactly. So true. Well, it's going to be really interesting to see how this, first of all, if the Supreme Court of Canada does grant them leave. I had a brief chat with John Carpe yesterday, and he thinks the chances of them succeeding with that request are slim. I hope he's right. But again, that also, obviously, there's a big controversy with Chief Justice Richard Wagner. And I've said it before, nobody loves him some Chief Justice Wagner more than Chief Justice Wagner. So, it's going to be really interesting to see, even if he recuses himself from deciding on whether to grant leave, and then following that, if they are granted leave, will he recuse himself from hearing this case at all? based on the public comments that he made disparaging the Freedom Convoy and Le Devoir during or just after the convoy.
Just after, I believe. Michelle, did you watch his actions after convoy? And
No.
he was very vocal, did a couple interviews speaking about what was the term that he used, Tamara?
I'll read it to you right now. So the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court of Canada, shortly after the convoy, I'll just read, this is from the National Post. In his interview with Le Devoir, Wagner characterized the protest on Wellington Street, where Parliament and the Supreme Court are located, as, quote, the beginning of anarchy, where some people have decided to take other citizens hostage, end quote. The article reports Wagner as having declared that, quote, forced blows against the state, justice, and democratic institutions like the one delivered by protesters should be denounced with force by all figures of power in the country, end quote. That is the Supreme.
He's neutral.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. He's a judge. He's gonna make a neutral decision. Did he walk the convoy?
No,
Probably
I doubt
not.
it. Highly doubt it.
That's my next big thing, right? Back to that, nothing about us without us. Okay. Because I'm a woman, in case anybody needs clarification. And I walked that convoy every single day by myself, 10 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning when I come out of the house. Never once did I feel unsafe.
Right.
Yet Marco Mendicino was standing in the House of Commons saying that people were being threatened with rape. You know,
There's so much of that.
Marco is a liar. And,
of course he is.
That's the reality that Marco is. And Marco was playing a role. This is the problem. Like, Marco and I could walk down the hall and say, hi, how you doing? But Marco is also the same guy that I took out very aggressively when he just lost the email about Paul Bernardo getting transferred in the dead of the night, but forgetting to tell the victims to a medium security prison.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Michelle, throw you in the House of Commons, how do you become vocal on camera like you are? How do you become that position? I know there's a lot of backbenchers that sit up in the thing and you never hear anything from them, but you rose right to one of the loudest voices in House of Commons. How did that happen?
I don't know. I think probably my training is like a big issue. Like I do have a media background, so I'm very comfortable speaking and public speaking, and I'm very comfortable in front of the camera, and I do have that experience. So I'm sure that probably played into it. Not everybody who's a member of parliament likes public speaking. Like actually the irony is a lot of people who hate public speaking or who were introverts. Like I can name 4 MPs off the top of my head who were either mute, had a major speech impediment, couldn't speak. It's like it was like overcoming a fear for them. So I think that's it. Also, I am I don't think I am, but everybody tells me I am. Like I'm quite outspoken. I think I just say what people think. I don't know.
Kind of a toss-up between you and Melissa Lansbury. I the two in the House that are probably the loudest during that time those are the ones.
Yeah.
Listen, I remember the one debate, if you can find that clip, and Yara Sachs got up. We were debating. We were having the emergency debate. And like Melissa Lantsman, who's a Jewish, and so is Yara Sachs, gets up and says, honk honk is code for Nazi Heil Hitler or something.
Yeah.
What is actually happening? Like, have you lost your freaking mind? Like, and I think it's like there's a couple of things that are ingredients in a terrible recipe. Like everybody wants attention and everybody wants to get a clip or whatever because we live in this social media space. And I don't know what happens, but sometimes like in that house, I was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you actually, do you hear yourself? Like you sound insane. And you have a lot of protection, right? When you're in the house, like there's a couple of rules you can't do. Like you can't call somebody by their name. You can't call anybody a liar. But you do have protection. It's I can't remember the name of it right now. I'm drawing a complete blank.
Parliamentary privilege.
Yeah. Like what you say in the house. Right. So like, there were some times where I was like, okay, let's go outside the doors. You say that to me. And I was like, okay. Everybody needs to calm down. Yeah. Like it would get very heated. Right. Because people would say like things like Yara Sachs saying that, like,
Well, and then who was it that said, wasn't it somebody told Melissa Lanceman or accused her of standing with people that fly swastikas?
Yeah, like, so, like it's nuts.
It is nuts.
Well,
and you know, as a regular Canadian citizen, like, I stopped watching Question Period because I've seen more maturity in a kindergarten class, and I get what it all is. But Michelle, I would so much rather turn on my TV and see both sides of the house sitting at a table trying to constructively fix the problems that we have in this country, instead of acting like, you know, toddlers who can insult who the most and make the other person look the worst. This is Canadian politics.
But
like, when can we get to the solutions?
How do you work with somebody who doubles down
and
says things like what she said? How do you work with somebody like that? And so it's so hard because everybody's like, oh, everybody should get along and collaborate. And then you get in there and they do these psychotic things like Justin Trudeau not revoking the Emergencies Act and just doubling down and lying. Like, they lied. And then
they did lie.
How do you... I took some heat from somebody on one of the messages today that I got from somebody saying, hey, there's a convoy to Ottawa on May 16th or something like that. And I replied back and I'm like, why? What do you expect to accomplish? I've been telling this to people. We've been telling this to people for the last couple of years. Get involved with your local community, run for your city council, run for your school board, your local RM, get involved and change it from within. And I know anyone that took part in Convoy in February 2022 felt it. It was a feeling you could never, you can't relive that. I don't see anything being accomplished by doing that again in the future. What I do see is people getting involved in changing things from inside. Is that the path that people need to go, or what are your thoughts on that?
I would totally agree with that. And just to back up on what you said too, Tamara, like, again, leadership has to initiate that collaboration. So Mark Carney and the Liberals appealing that federal court appeal, that further, like, that stops the ability to sit at a table. Do you understand what I mean? Like,
yes, I do.
So the leadership is so imperative, because if you don't have a leader who's like, okay, everybody needs to park it for a second. You're going to eat it. You're going to eat it. And you're going to eat it. And you're all going to sit down and we're all going to figure this out. Right? That's a leader. That's momming. That's parenting. Yeah. Right. And nobody's doing that. Right. Like, I have to give a ton of credit today to Pierre Poilievre, because he went on Joe Rogan.
Yes.
You know, everybody's like, oh, he didn't go hard enough on this. I said, Pierre was there to sell Canada, not shit on it.
Yeah.
Right.
He had to went on there and really doubled down on how broken and how bad it is. Does that sell us? No. And there's a key moment when he says, Joe Rogan says about, well, why isn't the prime minister stealing your ideas or working with you? And Pierre says, I will not criticize the prime minister on foreign soil.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
And that is the tone. Like, it's like the big messy family, right? Like, we can all fight behind closed doors, but when we're out here, and right now we need to fix this relationship with the states. Like, we have to. Like, this
we
is
do.
Just,
yes,
that's just
we do. Yeah,
that's just what it is. And so, you know, I think it was really important. But to that point, that's why I actually thought Mark Carney was going to be more of an adult. To be honest with you, like, I thought he had more adult tendencies than Justin. Justin was a child. Like, he is a child. He's very immature. And I thought that, okay, he's going to take this federal court of appeal, even if he didn't acknowledge it, which they weren't, right? Like, Andrew Lott brought it up. They wouldn't even acknowledge it. So that was your indicator one, what they were going to do. But they appealed it. And I'm like, oh, like, you can't.
Now we wait. How long before it hits the Supreme Court? And are they going to grant leave? That's the next thing. 10% of cases.
And how much is it going to cost?
Oh, the money that the government has spent, you know, the estimates on Tamara and I's trial alone was $20 million, according to some lawyers that gave us that. $20 million, you know, and Queen Ramona, who was in Saskatchewan here, had a whole community under lockdown and was threatening police officers and parliamentary people. Just got stayed of her charges the other day as well. They did a police raid with the squad at her compound. It was essentially a cult. Yesterday, charges stayed against her.
Wow.
This is the priorities of our federal government right now, or our Crown's office throughout the provinces, and it's disgusting.
I think back to your point, Chris, you asked me, you said, what can you do? And I think you actually nailed it. And I think a lot of people think you have to be an elected official. I totally do not think that. I think, look at what both of you did. I also think, there's a running joke. If you really want to get to the minister, you go to the staff. They're running the ship, right? So, I used to do this thing because everybody would be like, oh, women in politics, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you don't have to be the elected official to have stroke. Like, it's the people who are working inside. So whether you're running for office or you're volunteering or you're getting involved, like my biggest message I have to people right now, go help someone.
Yeah,
that's what the world needs.
exactly.
Like, simply, like, go out and serve some soup at a soup kitchen. Go out and shovel your neighbor's driveway. Go take a casserole to your aunt. Like, hold the door for somebody. Like, go help someone. And and it's like, that's like as simple as it is right now to like try to get forward. And it's, I hate it because they say it and I don't know that they live it. I'm not a huge like Michelle Obama fan, but it's like, when they go low, you go high. And I think there is something to be said for that. But it's really, really frustrating when they are ruining your life.
Yeah.
Like,
it's really hard not to get black-pilled right now, for sure.
Or get
really hard not to get black-pilled.
And it's like, ooh, like it's just, ooh. And I can't tell you, like, there's so many people in this job that are not good. Like, they're not smart. They're not good. And
politics is a thankless job, though. It's a thankless job.
It won't attract good people. I'll say it. I will say
no, that's exactly the problem. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. And until we get people in there with some integrity and some courage, I 100% agree. It's an easy paycheck for a lot of people. You don't have, like you said, in the House of Commons, you don't even have to write your own questions. And I mean, there was an article that came out, I think, by the CBC a few weeks ago, where they're paying consultants to teach people how to respond on camera. Like, none of these people seem to actually do their jobs. It's all the other people underneath them, like you just said, that are doing it for them. They're almost like a figurehead.
Well, and they're guarded. So like today, to go back to Pierre on Joe Rogan, what was so great about it is Joe didn't have an agenda. So it was comfortable to watch because you saw Pierre not have a guard up. He wasn't in an interview with Rosemary Barton. He was talking to a guy. And so, but as a politician, everybody's always out to get you. And they're always like trying to demonize you. And so you become this like guarded, like you also become unhuman because they're always trying to get you. And so it's not.
You don't have to be a politician to deal with that, I'm afraid.
Right. Any sort of public figure, right? And I think that's very true.
But Pierre showed himself. If people actually go watch that Joe Rogan Experience show, Pierre showed himself as a true leader, willing to try and unite the country. When Joe asked him about Alberta separation, what was Pierre's response? It's not going to happen. We need somebody in here that can unite this country. And I agree 100%. That is what's lacking. You were 100% right when you said that earlier. Leadership has brought us to this position right now. People in Canada are angry. They're divided. They're hurt. They're broke. And how do we fix that?
Well, I actually think Danielle Smith is doing a really great job because she's doing exactly what Justin Trudeau didn't do. With, like, to me, the separation movement is very similar to the convoy. Like, you can look at those two things as almost parallel issues. People feel forced. Their hands feel forced. Like, when I speak to Albertans, they're like, I don't want to do this, but there's no other option. We're sick of being abused, right? And that is so fair. Like, that is such a fair statement. It's like a bad marriage, but she's listening. She's like, these town halls are happening. She's going, she's engaging, she's hosting this referendum. And I think that's the path to leadership. When people are upset, the convoy, imagine he had to come out and talk to you.
Yeah.
Imagine.
Just listened. Yeah.
We might not be in house arrest right now and having this conversation. So
I literally, in my speech, if you watch it, I did this tongue-in-cheek thing where I'm like, I Googled the top 10 hostage techniques, and I go down them, like it's like everything. And I said, I Googled that, and the federal government hasn't done any of them. And I'm pretty sure they have a lot more resources than Google, right?
Right.
And they
Yeah,
didn't
no
do
kidding.
one of the things.
Yeah.
Tell the same thing to everybody. Meet with the people, communicate. They didn't do any of it. None of it.
No.
One of
No,
the
because they said they didn't know who the leadership was or who were the leaders, but they still know who to arrest.
Yeah, right. Exactly. One of the things we heard the most from from Canadians as we crossed across the country was the fact that people wanted change. People wanted to be heard and not to leave until we had some sort of resolution or some sort of agreement. And we went into Ottawa with that on our hearts. I think to myself a lot, could we have done anything different to make things different? I can't find any solutions to find if we would have done anything different. If Justin Trudeau wouldn't have been so harsh, called us names and used those tactics, like flying the swastika flag on Parliament Hill was nobody that I stood with in Ottawa, nobody that Tamara stood with in Ottawa. That was a plant. That was somebody from within either government or city officials or the police service. Why was there never an investigation into who and where that came from? That is a question that I'll die asking.
Well, I think we know the answer. I mean, Chris, you have to remember that you and me and others have been profiled. We're on the IMVE list. We have documents and paperwork. Any money that was ever attached to the convoy has been investigated by every acronymed agency in the country and beyond. So you cannot tell me, after all the investigating and the digging around and all the information that they dug up about you, me, and others, that they don't know who that guy is. And I think Brendan Miller actually brought that up during the POEC, if not during the hearings and in a conversation after. Like, there's no way they don't know who that guy is. They don't care because knowing who that guy is doesn't help them in any way.
Did you follow any of the POEC, Michelle, when it was happening?
No, I didn't.
It was a tense experience, and I can tell you that personally because I've never testified in front of a courtroom in my life, and here I was, one of the first truckers to go up and give my testimony. And
how long did you testify for?
What was it, about 3 hours, something like that?
Yeah, I think we each had 2 hours of examination in chief, and then was it 2 hours of cross?
Did you feel like it was fair?
I felt like it was really fair. Tamara and I were one of the ones to actually get Justice Rouleau. I got Justice Rouleau to actually laugh, and then he had to catch himself. It was a cordial conversation, and I think my testimony went really well. And when we were sitting in the POEC listening to all the government officials testify, we heard repeatedly under the cross-examination that the thresholds were never hit. They admitted that under oath. And to find out Justice Rouleau was then ruled in the government's favor was a little shocking. I mean, you've come to expect this in this country now, but it was a farce. It was honestly a farce to sit and listen to the testimony that went on there and the thresholds not met and then still ruled that they were justified was horrible.
It was definitely another case for me where I went in still believing, Michelle, even after all I'd been through by then. I was like, okay, the evidence is going to come out. I mean, Chris and I know in our hearts, anyone that's involved knows in their hearts what really happened.
I already know.
Yeah, exactly. And I still went in there believing that the truth was going to come out and that we were going to win this. And then once the bureaucrats started coming in and the politicians and listening to their testimony, I realized, 3 weeks from the conclusion that it was just a dog and pony show. And once again, like I just felt just completely stabbed in the back by my country and by these, not my country, but by these people that I was taught to look up to and respect, that were going to always tell the truth and they were going to always have the backs of Canadians and they were always going to protect their rights and freedoms. So it was just like another knife in my back, I felt like. And then of course, and then going on into the trial, so the same thing. Like this whole thing for me, I'm not a bitter person or angry person, thank goodness, because I think I would be pretty miserable by now. But I mean, it's just, look, when I still haven't had my holy shit moment, put it that way. I still haven't had the opportunity to sit down and just like take in everything that has happened to all of us over the last 4 years and just have that ugly cry or, because I'm not ready to do that, I think, until this is concluded for us. And I don't even know if that's ever going to happen at this point.
I just spent the week with a farmer, that contracted me to haul this thing. And every evening we would sit down in a restaurant and we'd have a beer and supper, and he would ask questions. He's really fascinated, a huge supporter. Les, give you a shout out there. He's probably listening tonight. And quite often in our conversations, he would say, "Why are you not angry and bitter with the situation that you're in right now?" And I went, "Because it won't help anything, and nobody needs to see that. And there's times in the day when I'll hide that, or I'll keep that. I'll throw a hammer across the shop floor or something like that." It's really hard to fight that fight though, because there's been so much hit us in the last 4 years that, how do you not?
Well, I think you need each other, right? More than anything. Like, one of the best sayings I've ever heard from a funeral director is, grief shared is grief diminished. And so I think as you fight this fight, and there's going to be days like when this appeal comes out again, it just like punches you in the gut again. It's like it's like a boxing match, right? And so you take a blow and then you've got to give one back. And sometimes you need to take a break and you need to tag a friend in. And so you need to do that. And I think that's why the community of what you guys have built is so valuable. And I deal with this too, not on the level that you guys do, but there are days when I'm like, what am I doing? This is stupid. I don't care. What am I putting my neck out there for, to say things that people just think, I'll tell you an example. Today, I shared a video of a woman sharing a story of being offered maid at a Vancouver hospital. She went in, she was not feeling well. And the first thing they asked her is, "Do you want maid?" She's like, "What? No." And so she ended up having this full recovery. People, friends, I thought they were friends, are like, "Why are you posting an AI video?" And I'm like, it's not AI.
AI.
It's real. And so, I mean, it does beat you down, right? Because you're right and you're telling the truth. But I think one of the real revelations I've had in my journey and as I age is, I remember I was driving to Ottawa and I had this kind of thought to myself. I was thinking about how toxic politics is and how brutal it is. And I have this saying, if you don't do politics, politics will do you. It literally controls every aspect of your life. So you can't really escape it. And how dysfunctional it is. And I said, "Michelle, have you ever worked in a place that was functional?" And I was like, "No."
True.
And it's why? Because humans aren't functional. Right. We are dysfunctional. And so, to your point, Tamara, of having that holy shit moment or waiting, back to your point of we're just human, so are politicians, and they're flawed. Just like everyone else. Maybe they have confidence issues. They have insecurity issues. They need to fit into a tribe. It's the same thing as a small child as when you're an adult, but they're in charge of the country. I remember sitting at the table being like, "How did you get here? How did
I don't get it."
Right?
That's
I think that about so many of them. But you know what? We are so lucky. And it is politicians like you, Andrew Lawton, Matt Strauss, David Bexty, that was just, Aaron Gunn. There's too many to name. I do have hope because I do believe that these guys have gone into this with the right motivations. They're not just there for a pension and a paycheck, right? And an easy job. And so, I mean, it is politicians, like you, that give us hope. And I just want to say, thank you to you and others like you, like my own MP, Glenn Motz. I know that there was people during the convoy that were working behind the scenes to try to help facilitate a meeting or some conversations. And
he was literally trying to get Marco to bend a knee. He truly was. He was trying his damnedest. And he's a smart guy, Glenn Motz.
Yeah, he is.
Aaron O'Toole was literally our first victim but it was the wrong leader that probably should have fallen at that time. And your thoughts on that? I mean, we come in there and all of a sudden you guys had an uproar within the Conservative Party, I would imagine, before we even got there. And we're kind of looking for an excuse, from what I understand from the people that I know internally. And that was probably the opportunity to bring that, right?
Well, listen, I came in pretty fresh-faced and naive, and so there's a lot of history pre me getting elected with Aaron and the caucus, and I don't really know that. And I had personal relationships with Aaron because his dad was from my riding and all of this. But I remember very specifically saying when the convoy rolled into town and Aaron went up and he's doing a press conference about, I don't even remember what it was about, oil or something.
Right.
He didn't address the convoy.
Mhm.
And the reporter goes, like, what do you think about the convoy? And I can't remember what he said, but I was like, because I'm comms, right? Like my brain always thinks, and I'm like, what are we doing? What are we doing?
Yeah.
We need to address the largest convoy in the world in Ottawa. Like what?
Yeah.
We can't pretend this isn't happening. And so
it's happening right out in front of your doors, no less. Like,
yeah. And so I
hear the horn sounding.
Yeah, and I think you know, I don't know why or how. Like there's lots of decisions that are made, and a lot of decisions in politics are made out of fear, exactly like what I said to you before. Like you're constantly under attack and maybe it'll disappear. And I'm like, I don't think this one's disappearing. Like they're there. And and you know, it was but in his defense, or whatever you want to call it, like I did this little post and I was on the front page of my local paper as like a lunatic because I was saying the convoy brought me hope. Well, they still brought that up in the last election. Like I'm a horrible person and I should be, tarred and feathered and hung up out in the sidewalk. Like, so.
But you know, nobody. It is hard, and because you know people that make those comments, but we sat through this whole trial, and that's one of the things that you touched on in that clip I showed from our interview at the convention. Nobody ever said why. I think actually the judge maybe one time brought up the reason that we went to Ottawa, you know, but they try to make me and Chris sound like these monsters and that this was just even Stephen McKinnon, when he got up in the House of Commons and addressed Andrew Lawton's talk about the appeal, called it an occupation. But also what I noted in this was he's going off about how terrible it was basically it was an occupation. It was terrible people and it was unbelievably annoying. Well, when did unbelievably annoying become a reason to invoke the Emergencies Act?
Especially when Andrew Lawton was one of the ones participating in, you know, he was with us there. He's like a result of somebody getting involved in politics and trying to change from within.
Well, and you know what else is annoying? Losing your job because you refuse to participate in something you don't believe in. Not being able to kiss your mother goodbye when she's dying in the hospital. That's annoying and rather inconvenient. You know, losing your job, losing your home, watching your family break apart. It's annoying. You know?
I guess back to your point, Michelle, earlier about having, you know, that connection or having somebody surrounding you supportive. I was going to mention when I'm out trucking in Big Red, the amount of people, less this week, he was calling me Taylor Swift because just everywhere we stopped, whether
you guys look the same. You guys look the same.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe just a little less hair, but everywhere we stopped, people were coming up for a photo and shaking hands and wanting to tell their story about the hardship they went through during and how we gave them hope. And so I see that every day out here. Tamara sees it out here every day. As soon as we're out in public, anywhere we get that notoriety. So I can't be more thankful for the amount of conversations I have with people. I wish I had more time to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What's the matter? What are you on house arrest?
Yeah, no, we're busier under house arrest than we were before, even with trial.
Listen, you guys have to lean into what's happened to you, and I think you've done it really brilliantly. And I think, you know, you're in the history books. I'll never forget that. I used to, you know, phone my parents when I would drive home every week, right? No matter how old you are, you're still a baby to your parents. And my parents watch CPAC every week and every day. Like, I don't know what they did after I lost the election because I'm like, there goes your whole life's plans. But I remember phoning them home and phoning them when I was driving home and, you know, they're asking me all these questions. And I was like, it's like literally walking in a history book. You just know, like, I remember walking through that convoy being like, this is wild. Like, I am part of history. And you guys were the creators of that, you know, like you really are the gladiators of our time of standing up for the people. And I'll never forget this quote. A young Jewish student came into my office and we were talking about anti-Semitism and all this stuff. And I said, what do you want me to do? Like, who am I? And he said, the power of the podium is a great responsibility. And that really stuck with me. And you guys are doing that still, right? You have a lot of people that have never healed. You know, I go back to Bob, and I think you guys are really giving that voice and justice that they're never going to get from the mouths of Steve McKinnon. They're never going to get that. And so you guys bring that for them, and it's really, really valuable. And I'm thankful for you guys.
Thank you.
Well, thank you.
I reached out to Bob, and I actually asked Bob if he would be willing to come on. We do a vaccine injury, host once a month, and unfortunately, Bob's voice is so bad because of the ALS said he won't be able to give an interview. So I have his number
right now. I think though.
Yes, Bob.
And his beautiful wife Sharon, and then their lovely son Rob and his wife Jody own Big Sky Barbecue in Okotoks. So yeah,
good to know.
Yeah, the best. We finally got it out there, and it's like just everything Alberta. Like I just love it.
Yeah,
that's on the north side of Okotoks, isn't it? I believe I've actually been there.
It's good stuff. Good stuff.
Nice.
I'll Google that actually, because I think I did have a steak cookout one day in Okotoks. So
right.
It's affected so many people out there, and the amount of messages I get from, I talk regularly with Kevin Street and Steve. These people are hurt, and the government is unaccountable yet to this day, and unwilling to answer any questions or at least have any assistance in the programs that they put out. The VISC program has been a flop. It's been a waste of money and resources.
ArriveScan 2.0.
Basically, yeah.
Yep.
We admit that it causes injury by having the program. We admit that it did something, but when and if you go to access it, there's nothing there. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
Thanks for participating in the biggest psyops this world's ever experienced. COVID was real and people were damaged from COVID. I understand that. But 2 weeks to flatten the curve 2 years later, somebody had to stand up. We, I remember telling the story. We went through some of the harshest, situations for over-the-road truckers out here, being isolated in the cab of the truck. We couldn't use bathrooms. We were standing in drive-through lineups with passenger cars trying to get a cup of coffee in the morning because how dare you go into the building, even when masks were available as well. Bathrooms are great outdoors. And then to see the mandates continue to being pushed, the January 15th mandate for cross-border travel was my last straw, and that's when I was angry. I crossed the border into North Dakota, and I could enter a restaurant without showing a piece of paper saying that I was good enough to enter that establishment. I didn't have to wear a mask anywhere in the state. I seen the differences, and it really pissed me off every time I came back to Canada. And then I had to show an app on my phone to get back into my own country, as well as the passport that the government issued. The ludicrousy in this country just kept getting worse. And we waited for law enforcement. We waited for health professionals, somebody to say, enough, okay, this has to stop. We want our lives back. And it didn't seem like it was happening.
It didn't happen. The whole country is traumatized, and our kids are traumatized. We just came up to that 6-year anniversary, because I always remember it because my daughter's birthday is March 12th, and it was March 13th, right? So we all went out for sushi dinner, and then the next day it was like the world shut down. Like, we still can't even talk about it because it's like traumatizing. Like you're like traumatized, and then when you start to talk about it, you're like, "Are we so stupid? Like, why did we do that?" And then it just gets you all like in a frenzy. And then like, what did we do to these babies that had no human contact, or they had to talk to people with masks? And like, what did we do to the old people who were like, it's like I don't even want
to get to go to school. The lack of education.
No, I can't. It's just so insane.
Learning.
It's just so
well, and I mean, I guess that's one of the most frustrating things about the government, that continually trying to take this and win through the courts. I mean, all Canadians really want, I feel, is maybe some accountability and some justice, because we can't move on. Like you said, we can't move on and heal until we see somebody held accountable for these decisions that were made. I mean, it's impossible.
It's really, really hard. It's really, really hard for people to move forward. And it's like, even if they would just acknowledge and say, okay, we won't do that again. Sorry. Yeah. And I know that sorry doesn't fix it, but
it would be an acknowledgement that they actually care. And, I even often thought a lot about that during the convoy and following about Trudeau. Like, I mean, I have no love lost for that man whatsoever. But I often thought, if he would have come out even regarding the pandemic and just said, you know what, we made some mistakes, perhaps, we're going to take some time and look at this. But they wouldn't even do that. Like they couldn't even just say, you know, we're going to take a moment of reflection and see, because they will never admit that they made a mistake. They will never admit that they're wrong. They're never going to admit that they hurt people. And so, I mean, and it's evidenced by this decision now to try and take this all the way to the Supreme Court.
Yep. Yep.
So
Does this change with a government change? You know, if we have some reflection and we have an election and there's a change of government in this country, do you think, you know, reparations, I don't even like using that word because of how they've used it in the past, but reparations will take place, not financial reparations, but some acknowledgement that things went wrong?
I think it's totally possible. I've seen governments apologize for things that happened decades, hundreds of years ago.
yeah.
So,
right.
yeah, I think it's possible. I think it's just like, you know, I don't want to make a comparison because people will clip it and go absolutely bananas if I say it out loud.
Yeah,
But,
that's right.
But you know what I'm saying, and that I've seen, you know, an element of truth have to come out, right?
Mhm.
And then have to take accountability for it. So I absolutely think that's possible. I absolutely do. And I think a good leader would actually do it, because I think it's, you have to heal this country. Like, I'll never forget Raquel Dancho did a speech one night in the Emergencies Act. It was like, Raquel was always
Yes.
like great and already wonderful, but it was like, I think it was like one of the first times where she like put her notes and like she threw them away and she just like went, and she talked
Mhm.
about trauma and how traumatizing this government is and what they did and the overreach and the mandates
Yes.
and the division that they have caused. And it was such a powerful speech because it really is the word to describe what happened to us.
Mhm.
And I think, to your point, Chris, I think one day you will have to have a government say, yeah, that was really bad. Sorry about that.
They've doubled down. We've lived the last, you know, our trial was 2 years in length for mischief and 60 days in court. And, you know, a third of a year was gone traveling back and forth for dates here. And that was a lot for us to try and, you know, a lot for our families too, because our families were the ones that had to endure that. My parents had to, you know, watch their son on the media going into the courtroom every morning, being humanized in the, you know, but then meanwhile, come down here and look after my horses and my dogs and make sure my well was working and the sewer was working properly. And it's been a lot on the family, but I think in the long sense, they picked the wrong two people to pick on, because Tamara and I are both very strong-willed, stubborn-ass Canadians, and we're not easy to break. Not.
And we're nice people. Like, we're just nice people.
You're
Like,
actually not what I thought at all. Like, I thought it was like, oh, everybody's crazy. Nope, nobody's crazy. And that's the other tactic that they use, right? And they still use it today. Like, they make you feel like you're crazy for just wanting something like, I don't know, how about we stop funding drugs and stop putting them in vending machines? I don't know. Weird. It doesn't seem that crazy to me. How about we put people who murder people in prison? I don't know. That seems pretty cool, normal. How about we be able to afford our groceries? I don't know. I didn't think I was that radical. Like, and so I think it's just wild how they do that.
It's dismissal. It's a dismissal tactic.
Oh, it's terrible.
I think it was this fall. Wasn't it this fall? I was in Calgary at a We Unify conference, hanging out with some amazing people. Michelle was a keynote speaker there, and I got to listen to your speech. And I thought, you know, I've watched this girl on you know, TV and social media so much. I would really like to just say hi and introduce myself. Does she think I'm, you know, a horrible person? And I walked out the doors to visit some other people, and you were sitting at a table. So I just, you know, a leap of faith and just said, hi, Michelle, my name is Chris Barber. And you knew who I was, obviously, and we had an amazing conversation. And I'm thankful for that connection, because it's been, you know, there's been so many people over the last number of years I've been fortunate enough to meet. And yeah, and after watching you being so outspoken in the House of Commons, I've always looked up to you in that. You've got a mouth on you and you've got a fire, and that's what the world needs more of.
Listen, I used to get in trouble for talking too much. Now I get paid to talk too much. So never mind, okay? It's the way it is. And
that's hilarious.
I'll tell you this story. I don't know when you guys have to get off, but I tell this story all the time to kids, especially. I never got to go to the House of Commons. We were supposed to go in like grade 7. I lived like 3 hours away. So it was like your grade 8 trip. But I never went to grade 8. I skipped grade 8. But when I was in grade 7, I was in a grade 8 class. So I was supposed to go on this class trip. And we were supposed to go to the House of Commons. I'd never been. Well, I got in trouble. Because I was talking too much and the teacher took it away and I never got to go. So when I got elected was the very first time that I ever walked into the House of Commons. And
wow.
I remember saying, I didn't get to go to the House of Commons because I talked too much. And then I got to go to the House of Commons because I talked too much. So
nice.
So embrace what your kids are and lean into it and with everything like that. But I'll tell you, my mom, you've got a good ally or you're on the right side of history. My mom is a pretty centrist, more liberal leaning type of woman. And she's like, what they've done to that poor woman, Tamara, that's terrible,
Aw.
I'm like, so screw Chris, but yeah, poor Tamara. No.
Well, it was so funny because really, Chris was just saying,
he really said what they did to those two people that's terrible what they did. And I said, yeah, when you compare it to how they treat real criminals, it's really terrible what they've done.
Well, I'm not like Chris. I have a hard time walking up to people, especially members of parliament, even at the convention, because I'm worried maybe they don't like me or maybe they believe some of these lies, or I don't want to have my picture with them posted or have it be posted because I don't want to get them in trouble, because there is definitely a stigma attached to us, which I understand anyways. But it was really funny. I was at an event in Calgary 2 summers ago, and I met Pierre Poilievre's lovely mother. And I was absolutely shocked because I'm standing in this crowd, talking to people, and someone comes and taps me on the shoulder. And they said, Pierre Poilievre's mom wants to meet you. And I almost fell over. I didn't even think she'd want to have, you know what I mean? The stigma, there's so much stigma around it sometimes. Anyway, so I went over, she gave me the biggest hug, and I just sat and chatted with her for a few minutes, and just a lovely person. So, there is so much, the support out there comes in places where you don't even imagine sometimes.
And almost always there's a common thread. And that's, again, to loop it back to Joe Rogan, why I think Joe Rogan has been so successful and why he has the #1 podcast in the world is because he doesn't go for sensationalism or a clip. He does these long form interviews to really show who the person is. And when you're watching it, you're like, oh, they're just a person. And much to your point, Tamara, what you just said about, I don't want to go to them, I'm afraid, that's how everybody feels. Yeah. My 16-year-old son was supposed to meet this young girl, and he goes, I'm super nervous. And I said, so is she.
Yeah.
Whatever you think, so is she. And so I remember when you walk into a room and you think that, I think that often too, Tamara, very similar to what you just said. I'm like, I don't want to, people, I have this big personality or this a polarizing thing, either you love me or you hate me, and so I don't want to put people into a position where they want to I'm like, oh, I don't know, I don't know if you want to see with me, I don't know, and everybody feels like that. And so then and it's really interesting because humans are very similar, right?
Well, it's like you said earlier, we're all human beings, Paul. And before this experience, Michelle, I was still one of those people. I would go on social media and I don't think I've ever considered myself to be disrespectful, but I would say make remarks about politicians or, I'll just say the conspiracy theory holes, right? Yeah. Or whatever. But, one thing that I've learned is that, a lot, 10% of what you hear is actually the truth or what they're really like. You know what I mean? So this experience for me has also helped me to be much less judgmental and just flippant, and especially how things I make on social media.
You're leading with empathy, because you've
Yeah.
experienced it,
right? Yeah,
and you know what? So. You don't know what you don't know.
Yeah,
right. People don't know what they don't know. And I was watching Love Story, the JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette story, and there's this scene in the show, and she's at the restaurant, and the daughter says, you need to phone grandma. She's reading all this stuff in the paper that you're a drug addict and all this stuff. And she goes, she doesn't understand that people can just say whatever they want. And I was like, wow, it's still true today, right? So, and so you get vilified, right? Do you know what happens when you do nothing? Nothing. Do you know what happens when you do something? Something. And when you do nothing, you don't get in any trouble.
100%.
That's true. That's so true.
And we've been in a lot of trouble.
Oh.
Yeah, so you're doing something.
That's true. Flying
But
over the target.
You're running around right now doing the Hope Tour, right, with a bunch of other people. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yes.
We did one. We did a pilot project in Vaughan. Is that where we were? Yeah, we were in Vaughan. And it was great. I am, in between so many jobs right now of advising and media training and doing all this kind of stuff with folks. And so I haven't picked it back up yet. But there's a lot of interest, and I think people really want it. So I'm hoping to do something in the next few months to bring it back. It was obviously there's a huge appetite for it. It was a great forum. We brought together a bunch of people in a room, and we talked about what can we actually do, right? Like to Chris's question, what do you actually do? How do you actually move the needle when they, what is the point? Like the number one thing I would hear at the door was, why do I even bother? What does my vote matter? And then when they cross the floor, like you're really like, what does it even matter? And,
right, exactly.
I think hope is, I've always said this, hope is the glue that allows you to go on when you think you can't. And I think it's a very powerful tour, a very powerful emotion. So
Yes.
I want it. I like things like big and amazing. And so I have lots of ideas for it. So, but I'd like to come out to Chris's barn is where I'd like to come, to his garage.
We could open the shop up, be in the centerpiece, maybe pick it in the summertime so because my shop's kind of cool in the wintertime, but we can make
I'll
something.
bring a band.
What's that?
I said I'll bring the band.
I would love it.
We could have a party. It could be
that's what we need.
Yes.
When people say to me, what would you do if you had to fix the world? Like whatever. I'm like, this is what I would do. 30 days, because it takes 28 days to rewire your brain. 30 days, no social media, none. Complete blackout. You have no phone. You have nothing. You have an analog like landline. You have to pick up and phone call people. You have to go to your local community center. You have to bring a casserole or some kind of dish. You have to have music, and people have to talk to each other and dance.
I love it.
30
Love
days.
it.
That's what, and that was kind of Convoy in a nutshell as well too. Somebody mentioned and it stuck with me. It was like Canada Day on steroids is how they described it. And it was some aspects it was a party. For us it wasn't necessarily a party. But it accomplished a lot, and it made a lot of people grow, and we blew, like you said earlier, we blew a lot of stereotypes away, the East versus West and Tamara and I get this question quite a bit. Would we do it again? I would do it. I would change a few aspects of it and some of the people we associated with. Other than that, I don't think much would change.
I think the bigger question is, why did you need to do it in the first place?
That's right.
Yes.
Exactly. That's
where I go with all of this. It's like the Liberals just put out an announcement. They're no longer going to charge you for your NSF funds, like non-sufficient funds, when your check bounces. Why?
Oh.
Why do you need to put that in place? Why are people having NSF funds? Right? Because they don't have enough money.
They're just the accountability.
Because they don't have any money. That's why.
Yeah.
Why don't they have any money? Because you spent it all. It's like the grocery rebate. Why do I need a grocery rebate? Why can't I afford my groceries? Like, it's the same thing. Like, if I could get more people to ask why, I think we would be like in a much further ahead area, but we don't live in a why world. We live in I'm going to defend my team world. I'm actually not going to listen to anything you're saying. I'm only here to defend my team. You're wrong. I'm right. And I'm going to spit on you instead of like, oh, okay.
You remember back in the day, people used to, I tell the story about my grandfather. He would, he passed in 87, but he would go to our local co-op coffee shop every morning or every couple of days. And he was a voting card carrying liberal back in that day. And he would debate his conservative friends. And the next day they would go back to the same table and do the same thing again. They never left the table angry. And it was a conversation that a community had. But also in that day, our community, our hometown of Stewart Valley, Saskatchewan, was built because of people not wanting a paycheck, but putting their own time and labor into that community to build that community. And you don't see that anymore like you used to anymore. Culture's changed.
Mm-hmm.
We live in a different world, man. We live in a totally different world. And like in a really short period of time, it's a different world. Like there's this trend right now. It's like, Mom, what were you like in the 90s? So I was like trying to put together some like photos of me in the 90s. and I shared this. I came across this book I had to write, or a paper I had to write for university on herpetology. And it was like a published paper on the map turtle. And it's like all these journals I had to go to the library. It took me like, I don't know,
Wow.
It probably took me weeks to put together. I'm like, Chat GPT could have done that in like 4.5 seconds.
Yep.
No kidding. Yeah, no kidding. Oh,
Live
wow.
in such
So
a
true.
different world. Such a different
Michelle,
world.
I grew up with party lines. I remember
Oh,
party
really?
lines.
So did I.
Two
Yeah.
rings, one short ring, one long ring.
Like to imagine being like 95, 97 and like what you've seen in terms of technology in your lifetime. Like this has been the most compressed change of tech ever in history, right? Like imagine somebody telling you one day that you could use the internet to like, it's just so crazy. It's just, and I'm just so glad there was no social media when I was.
It is. My grandma's 98 years old. I think about it all the time, like just the things that she's seen in her lifetime.
Yeah.
Yep.
Crazy.
Or I think
I used to truck to Texas. I would go to Houston, Texas with a load,
So-
and I would deliver loads
Well,
all
Michelle,
over
we better let you go. We've had you.
your phone. Your connection broke a little bit there.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we
Go
usually keep the show about
Go
an
ahead,
hour and a
Chris.
half.
Chris,
I was
Yeah,
just-
I have a leg. Go ahead.
I used to truck to Texas all the time, and that was the days before cell phones. And I still have the laminated road atlas on the backside of the passenger seat because that's how we found where we were going. And if we messed up, we couldn't just Google where we were. I look at the GPS right now more than anything, and it's sad because I wasn't with that era. But
it's just a
Well,
That's
totally
so
different
true.
world. And for better or worse.
Could I even cook a
here we
turkey
are.
without my phone now?
yeah, probably.
I don't know. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Even watching that back to that love story with JFK Jr. and Carolyn Bessette, because it was in the 90s, and you watch and they like
Yeah.
don't have a cell phone. Like, and you're like,
Right.
it's just so weird to watch. Like, it's just like you're like,
It
I
is.
remember that, but I remember it. Like my kids won't remember that, right? They won't
Right.
remember a time like that ever.
So
And I'll
true.
remember the convoy too. Just saying.
Lots to talk about for many stories. So hopefully I have some
Oh,
grandchildren someday I can share those stories with. Well, we usually keep the show at an hour and a half, Michelle. It's been absolutely amazing. We're going to end it now, but hang in there because we'll talk backstage when it clears. We really appreciate you being on here. It was an amazing conversation,
Yes.
insightful. So thank you.
Really appreciate your time.
You're awesome.
And thank you to everybody in the community for coming out. I haven't read all the comments, obviously, but wow, there's tons of comments
lot.
in there and some really great stuff. So thank you so much, Michelle, and to everybody else. I don't know what we're gonna do next week yet, Chris.
We wing it
Maybe
all
we'll
the
just
time.
do a round table. That's right, exactly. We fly by the seat of our pants here on House Arrest.
We do.
But the week after that, I'm really happy to once again remind you that Carrie Sakamoto will be coming on for our vaccine injury feature for the first Thursday of the month. And so we're going to be talking to Carrie Sakamoto and getting her story. So thanks again, Michelle. Have
Thanks,
a great night, everyone. And we'll see y'all next week. And thanks again to Tasha,
Yes.
the producer, our
Thank you.
amazing producer. Thank
Thanks,
you
Karen.
for everything. Good night, you guys.
Night.